This is Real Housewives of the Kingdom, a sweet space where you'll hear from the hearts of fellow housewives in the kingdom of God. Some just like you and some really different in various walks of life. We will talk about how God is walking with us through the good and the hard. I pray you'll be encouraged and entertained as we laugh and sometimes cry together. Most of all, I hope it reminds you we're in this together and you are not alone. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know I'll be taking the month of July off. The next episode will air on August 6, 2021. Enjoy the month of July, and if you haven't already, go back and listen to my previous episodes. Today, I'm chatting with my longest and very first bestie, Lisa Eveland. We became fast friends 33 years ago when we were 4 and 5 after we met on the playground the first day of preschool. We grew up together and have been in each other's lives ever since. Lisa is a military wife. She's been married to her husband Matt for 18 years and they have 2 beautiful daughters. He is a senior master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. Not only have they lived all over the world, but he has deployed many times. In fact, he was deployed 6 times in their first 5 years of marriage. Today, she gives us a raw, real look into what it was like and how God sustained her. She gives us some valuable wisdom in how they kept their marriage and God a priority. Whether you're a military wife or not, I think you will so benefit from hearing this conversation. Hey everybody, I'd like you to welcome my dear friend Lisa to the show. Me and Lisa have been friends since we were 4 and 5 and we met at preschool and found out that we went to the same church and basically have been friends ever since. So I am so excited to have her here on the show with me, and she has a lot of wisdom to give, and we are going to be talking specifically today about deployments. Her husband serves in the military and has for a lot of years, and she has a lot of wisdom in terms of deployments. So I would like to share that with all of you. So Lisa, why don't you tell us a little more about you, anything that, I don't know, people might want to know.
Well, let's see. Matt and I have been married for almost 18 years. In May, it'll be 18 years.
Whoop, whoop.
And we have 2 girls. And
How old are they?
Emma is 11 and Claire is 7.
It's crazy to me that you have an 11-year-old.
I know.
It's like awesome, but like it feels like time just like, you know, flies.
It's too fast. But yeah, right now we're living in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. That's where we're at right now. We're in, if you're watching the video of this, we're in the Eveland's kitchen.
Small.
Yeah, that's okay.
Small and cozy.
Yes, life happens in sweet, small little houses. All right, and I'm gonna just kind of give a little bit more, just a little more detail. So, Matt, her husband's name is Matt. Mm-hmm. Did you say that in your?
Yeah, I think, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, just in case we reference and you're like, who's Matt? Matt is her husband. In their first 5 years of marriage, he deployed 6 times, which is pretty incredible, pretty crazy. We actually, so Kev and I have been married for 18 years as well, and we actually got engaged one day apart. I called Lisa to tell her I was engaged, and she was like, I got engaged yesterday. And I was like, oh my gosh, she beat me. But then I beat her to getting married. I was like, I'm going to go first. I'm going to do it first. But anyway, so we've been married the same amount of years. But anyway, I just think is incredible how she kind of walked through all of that. So that is what we are diving into today. So the first question I want to ask is, when did Matt join the military and how did you feel about it?
So he joined in 2002 and we were young, like, 19? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he told me and I was kind of...
Was this before? I can't remember if it was before you were engaged or was it after?
Yeah, it was like right before we were engaged. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, he told me, and then I was kind of excited because I secretly wanted to join the military.
I love that.
But I was too scared.
I'm gonna be like all Mulan.
Yeah. I didn't want people yelling at me. I didn't want to go through boot camp. So when was joining, I was like, okay. Like, so I would live my life vicariously through him. So, but yeah, I didn't think too much of it. I just thought it'd be fun to move and go see new places.
And now your dad was in the military.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really active when you were, like, by the time you remember, correct?
Yeah, I was probably like 3 or 4 when he got out, so I don't remember.
Right. But it was like kind of almost in the back of your head, maybe like, oh yeah, military's good. Like,
yeah.
Did it affect your expectations of marriage? Like, were you concerned about deployments and things like that, about moving, or were you just like, I'm in, whatever, sign me up?
Yeah. Well, because the war had just started not too long after he told me he was going to join. So I was kind of concerned that he would be gone, and with his job being security forces, I knew he'd probably have to go. So, but yeah, I didn't think about it too much because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I did. I was excited to like see where the road would lead us,
right?
Where God would lead us. So
well, and so Lisa's middle name is Kiana because she was born in Hawaii while her dad was stationed there. And when I was little, I always thought it was so exotic. Like, my best friend, she's Hawaiian basically, you know. She was from Hawaii, you know. But so I always thought it was actually kind of exotic too, because I always knew like her dad had been like stationed in other places, and so kind of the thought of it was always like kind of cool to me. So when they were getting ready to get married and I knew he was in the military, like I thought it was kind of cool. Where was your first posting, and what was it like starting your marriage there? Like, because you guys basically went right away, so
yeah,
you can tell them where it was at.
Yeah, he got, so right after we got married. Well, he was already stationed there prior to us getting married. So he got stationed in Wyoming.
I didn't remember that.
And yeah, just a few months before.
Oh, okay.
I think, yeah, he was
Maybe
there.
we were just like, because we're so busy just like doing wedding stuff and everything. I
just
don't know.
life in general. Yeah, so he was stationed there, then came back when he was able to. Then we were able to get married. That's why it kind of took a little while.
Took a little bit longer.
Yeah. So he was there. Yeah, and then right after we got married, I moved back with him. So it was hard, like, because I had been with my family pretty much my whole life, all the way until 20 years, just been with my family, get married, move away. And it was hard. Like, there were many nights that I cried because I missed them. It's the first time I was away from them. So, of course, I'm going to miss them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was hard. And I still miss them, but it gets easier through the years. But
I think also as, like, the siblings get a little bit older, too, it helps. Like, so both me and Lisa are, we have her brother that is next under her is the same age as one of my sisters. And then her sister, who's the next one down, is the same age as my brother, basically, and they're much younger than us. So so that was, so when they're little, it's like a little bit hard. I know for me, you know, I didn't go as far as Cheyenne, Wyoming, but on the initial I did travel and stuff. But I know when after I got married and we lived down in San Diego, which is from, you know, where my family lived, is only a couple of hours, but like my little brother would cry every time he would leave me, and that was like really hard for me. So I'm like, when Lisa was moving to Cheyenne, and I was like, oh gosh, it's so hard to leave him, but like exciting at the same time.
Because I was excited to start my life with Matt, but then I was sad to leave my family. So
how I can't remember. Did you guys go? How many days after your honeymoon did you guys go? Because you went pretty much right away, didn't you?
Yeah, it was only a couple days because he didn't have much leave time yet.
Right.
He just
started.
Joined, so he didn't have a lot of leave saved up. So it was probably just a couple days, and then we hit the road and went out there.
Did you guys have any conversations ahead of time about like deployment or like that sort of a thing, or like military, or kind of how you would approach things before you got married? Or
I don't think so, because I don't think we really knew what
Yeah.
we were getting ourselves into.
Oh,
learn.
Yeah, you totally do. You totally do. And then, so how long were you in Cheyenne for?
Oh, we were only there, I want to say like 9 months or something. It was a really quick one because they needed people to go and deploy. So they were trying to they moved into Georgia, which is like, they're on a constant deployment rotation. So they needed bodies. So yeah. That was our next station.
Yeah. Valdosta, Georgia.
Yeah.
And I've been, so they've lived all over the world, and Cheyenne was actually the only place that I've never visited that they lived, which is really incredible. And I always think that when, like, we were little girls, if we would have been like, one day you're going to live in England and I'm going to come visit you, you know. And I'm sure we're going to do another episode where we'll talk like more about like living abroad, because she lived in a couple different countries, which is awesome. So we'll talk more about that on another episode, but I want to really, you know, focus on the beginning and the deployments on this one. What would you say is was the biggest pro to moving away from family, and like the biggest con?
Oh, I'd say the biggest pro would probably help me become more independent. Because I'll tell you, like, I was very dependent on my family. Like, I was shy. I was a really shy person. So for me to move...
were?
Like, you know me.
You're never shy with me.
Because
We know each other forever.
But yeah, I had to get out of that, or moving away from them and doing things on my own, like really helped me like get out of that shell, which has helped me in all the areas of my life.
That's awesome.
So, but the con obviously is I miss them still. Like,
yeah.
No matter how long we've been doing this, like Matt's been in for almost 19 years. Isn't that crazy? Like June will be 19 years.
Like how old we were when we got married.
I know.
He's been in the military for
That's
as long as
crazy.
it's crazy.
I feel old. I feel really old.
I know. I feel old too.
I know. After all the years of doing this, like I still miss them every time we leave. We'll visit as much as we can, but yeah, every time we leave I get a little sad.
Yeah.
A little homesick.
Yeah.
But,
So once you moved to Georgia, how fast did the deployments start?
Let's see. I felt like we got a little bit established. I can't remember like the
You bought your
exact-
house right away, right?
Well, we rented an
First.
apartment first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see the apartment. See, I lied. I haven't been to every house you've lived in.
Well, we moved a few times around
See?
Georgia. 'Cause the
I've only
first
been to the
place-
house.
Oh, you didn't want to see the first place. The second
I
place
forgot
was
that.
okay. Because we were there 6 years, so we were finally like, maybe we should buy a house. But
How quickly did the deployment start?
so I think it started a few months after we got there because we were able to get moved in, kind of settled. We met some friends like right away, which was a blessing from God. Because
the Kinneys?
Yeah, the Kinneys. Brian and Jessica.
Yay! If they're listening, are you going to tell them about this one?
I should.
You should tell them.
Since they're,
Since they're mentioned.
Because they literally, like, we were still in the hotel, like, waiting to find a house or an apartment. And we went to the chapel that Sunday to go to church. And they saw us leave after the service. And they literally are like, hey, who are you? Nice to meet you. Let's go hang out. So they were such a godsend because they helped me get through these deployments. Like, they were like a little family that I didn't have. So,
And was he in the military?
yeah,
as well?
he was in the military. Yeah. So yeah, him and his wife are just
That's
a
like
total blessing.
that's awesome, and that's good. I think that's probably good advice. You know, as Christians, I mean, you know, you would think everyone just like automatically goes to church, but like if you move somewhere, you find a church. But I think it's difficult sometimes because you walk in, it's hard to like step out in a new place and go to a church you don't know anybody. Yeah. But, but God's created the body of Christ for us to really kind of like come alongside of us. So I think it's it's like a good tip for like, if you know you're going to be on deployments, like get involved in a church and to be able to meet people that can support you.
And it's hard because there were a lot of times I didn't want to go because it was something new and I felt like a spiritual battle going on. Like, you don't want to go to this new church. You don't want to go. But then God was telling me, just go. Like, I got you, girl. Go to church. You're going to be blessed. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And you guys are still, I mean, obviously you don't live in the same city as them, but you still keep in touch with them.
Yeah, we're still good friends with them.
You guys have even done like vacations. You've like met them for vacations, haven't you?
Yeah, they actually came here a couple years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we try to meet up with them when we can.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you say how soon did the deployments start? Like from the time that you got there?
I'm trying to think. It's probably, I'd say about 4 or 5 months afterwards.
Okay. And you knew, like you said, you knew that was kind of the idea. Like you were going there and that was something that would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew what he was getting into.
Yeah. And so going to church, meeting people, was there anything else you kind of did to prepare for the deployments?
I try to mentally prepare myself, but you can't do that until you're like in the situation. Like, because it's like a day by day thing. Like, how am I going to feel today? What emotions am I going to go there today? But, it was just...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I mentioned it in kind of the beginning, but 6 deployments in the first 5 years of marriage, and you're still married. Which is incredible. That's incredible.
It is, because I don't know how many military couples I know that have gotten divorced. Like, looking back through the years, the people we met, a lot of them are divorced, and it just breaks my heart.
Yeah. Because I think, like, marriage, like, you do it together. So I think, like, you have to be really intentional to keep it together. Now, when he was deployed, you were able to call and talk to him? How often were you able to call and talk to him?
Well, the first couple of weeks, because he was traveling, and then he'd have to stay in certain places where there was like no internet connection. So those were rough because I wouldn't really hear from him. But once he got on his base, then he was able to like Skype back in the day. I know, it's like,
for all you kids out there,
for all you youngsters,
this was the pre-FaceTime, pre-Zoom situation. It felt very like space age and like amazing when it happened.
It was the cool technology back then.
It really was.
So, yeah.
It's amazing.
I'm so thankful for that. That really helped a lot.
Yeah.
So, and he tried to call as well on the phone whenever he could. We tried to talk almost every day, but that didn't always happen.
That's awesome.
Or email. He would email a lot if he couldn't get on the phone.
I bet that was a huge reason that kept you guys bound together, even though he was apart. Yeah. That you were like continually having like contact with each other every day, even about just whatever the little things. Because I would say probably even marriages that don't go through a separation like deployment, a huge reason that they probably split apart is because they're not connecting.
Yeah.
They're not like sharing their lives with each other. You get into a groove of work, school, kids, whatever it may be, and you don't talk to each other anymore for an extended period. And so I bet that is a huge reason why with deployment, people find things to get busy while their spouse is out and, and then it like separates them.
Exactly.
That's awesome that God allowed you guys to be able to talk like that. And it's awesome that Matt made that intentionality to do that with you, because I feel like for me, so I've never been apart from Kevin as long as Lisa's been apart from Matt, so I'm not going to try to say like I know what she's going through at all. But I do know that, you know, like when you are the one somewhere fun or somewhere big or a work thing or whatever, it's, I think, well, and I don't know, I would have to ask Matt if it was less hard for him than it was for you, or, you know, I don't know. Because you're busy, like if you're going somewhere for work or going somewhere to like visit somebody or something, like you're like have something to do. But I've always felt like, so like when my hubby went away to go do a show for a couple weeks or something, you know, and I was home, it was like, oh gosh, like, you know, it was hard. Because, you know, he wasn't there, but he was busy working and doing stuff. So, but we were intentional too, even the short stints with that. But I think that's, but I know like I've done a few shows away from him, and when it was me going away, it was, I feel like it was still hard, but not the same as like being home and not, I don't know. Not that I didn't have anything to do, because you have stuff to do, but I don't know. Other than talking to each other, what other things could you say that helped cultivate togetherness during deployment? Like other than talking on the phone and emailing?
Well, I tried to like send him letters because he loves getting stuff in the mail.
That's awesome.
Well, who doesn't? You know, it's fun to get a letter in the mail.
Like packages and stuff of like fun little things.
Yeah, we try, and even our Bible study group, they would get together and send him a care package as well, and they'd all write, you know, a note in the card, and so I guess that's it.
While he was gone. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Now, was there a rhythm once he went that you like, because once you did the first one, right? Like, and then you went into the second one, was there kind of like a groove you settled into to kind of get through it? Or was each deployment different in respect to trying to kind of go through it?
Yeah. Well, you start getting a groove when you're like, okay, I'm on my own again. So, like, I would, like, mentally try to prepare for being alone again. And then, but it would be different in a way that God would teach me something new each time. So that was always fun. Like, because you have to draw close to Him through that because you're by yourself. So,
do you hear that? You have to draw close to God. That's like one of the things that...
Yeah. And I had to learn to be dependent on God because just like I said before, like I was dependent on my family. And then when I got married, then I became dependent on Matt. And then he had to go. So I'm like by myself. So I'm like, okay, who do I need to depend on? And God's like, hello, I'm here.
I'm right here.
Come here.
I'm just waiting for you, arms wide open. That's so cool that he taught you something different every time. Did you record things that he taught you, or?
Oh, I don't. No, I didn't write some of them down.
Are there any that stick out to you in your mind, like a big lesson he taught you, or just like in general he?
Yeah, there was one specifically, like, he went to Ethiopia. This was when we were in England, so it wasn't like too long ago.
So this was separate from so this was a deployment once they were already overseas, addition to this other 6 deployments we were talking about earlier. Number 7
deployment. And I probably remember it so vividly because it was it was not too long ago, and then. Like, so I was a mom now. Before, in Georgia, with all those 6, I wasn't a mom yet. So number 7, I was a mom now, 2 little kids, and I'm by myself at home.
In a foreign country.
In a foreign country. And I hadn't met a good group of friends yet. We'd just gotten there, I felt like. And so I wasn't established with a group of friends. And I just remember feeling so overwhelmed one night that I just fell on the floor. And I started crying because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, help me, God. I am exhausted. I'm alone, and I don't know what to do. And he totally, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Because this is my favorite thing that God has done for me. he gives me this peace. Anytime I ask him, he just washes me with this peace that I can't describe to anyone. It's just, so he gave me his peace in that moment, and I was just like, he gave me his strength, and I was just like, okay, God, let's get through this. He helped me get through the rest of, that was the longest deployment. That was about 7 months.
Wow. And
he did. He got me through it, and so yeah, that was one of the
that's amazing.
More meaningful, like that's ones I remember the most, because it was just, I was at my breaking point, I felt like. And he was just like, I got you, girl.
It's awesome.
So,
and he does come through, like he does. And I think too, one thing to point out, that you've always had a relationship with him. So, you know, like I talked about earlier, me and Lisa met at preschool, Christian preschool, and then we both found out we went to the same church, and we're so excited, except for her family went to first service and my family went to second service.
Just wanted to get up early.
I know. And then, but eventually, I don't know, I think eventually we might have went to the same service, because anyway, our families became good friends. Like our parents are still really good friends. And we did vacations together. Our families did all sorts of stuff together growing up. But we were in discipleship together at church. Yeah. We went to church camp together. And we definitely, I feel like even as young girls, talked about God, talked about our relationships with God. And, you know, I don't know that every kid who goes to church has really, like, you know, jumped in on a real relationship with God. But I do feel like you've had, like, as long as I can remember, you've always had a relationship with God. Yeah. Like I have too, you know? And that's also something that's solidified in our friendship too. Yeah. But I think it's important to know, like, to note that God gave her that peace, but it's because she's walking with him on the regular, and it's walking with him on the, like, the times where it's good and it's happy and it's easy, where, you know, you might have a tendency to forget to go spend time with him, but it's those days where you, like, it's the everyday, just really spending time with him. And then in those moments, he can come to you, rather than just like oh, whoops, I need you now, you know, like, because I think that true peace that you experienced comes from actually really knowing him and truly trusting him through the ups and the downs. Yeah. So you said that one was, the 7th one was the longest one. How long were the other ones? How short was the shortest one?
I think the shortest one he went on was probably 3 months. And then the other ones were like 6 months. So, yeah, still a long time.
Now, so now what about coming home? Like, is there an adjustment period? Is it like trying to get into the same, did it feel the same eventually? What was the, like?
Yeah, there is, you need an adjustment period, and so it's like hard, like, because you're in your own routine and schedule, and then it's like, oh, somebody else is now in my routine and schedule. So you have to have grace. That's the thing.
Did you hear that? Grace.
Because it's like, I'm home by myself, so I kept the house really tidy and clean, and obviously, and then you see, oh, somebody's clothes are on the floor now, and that's there, and it's just like, okay, let's get back into our routine. Like, you had to give him grace, and
you're like, even though I really missed you the last 7 months,
I missed you, but now you're making a mess. But yeah, for us, it was like, it didn't take too long, and it wasn't like a hard process, but I know for other couples that I've talked to, it was a hard process for them getting back into their routine or being together again. But I'm so thankful that it wasn't a struggle for us. Like, we didn't have fights about anything. But
do you think it was because you did so many, like it was almost like right out of the gate in your marriage, you were like practicing learning how to like do that?
Yeah, that could have helped. Yeah, just doing it so much, we knew what to do to get back.
Back where you were.
Yeah.
So did you feel like, so I know you said the 7-month one was the hardest, but did you feel like, and I don't know if you heard, but I'll repeat it, that they didn't have kids yet in the first 6 deployments. Did you feel like it was harder or easier?
Without kids?
Yeah, with or without.
It's easier without, definitely. Because not only so I just have to worry about my feelings during when you have the kids, you got to help them get through their feelings, and then you also got to deal with your feelings. And it was just like, I think that's probably what was overwhelming me, because they miss daddy too. So I'm not the only one missing him.
It's like your heart's broken, their hearts are broken.
Yeah. So it was definitely easier without them, and I also was able to stay more busy. Like, I was always trying to do stuff with my friends. I worked, and I would try to go back and see family anytime I could. So it was easier without. Was
he gone for something though when you were pregnant with Emma?
Not with Emma. I had a miscarriage when so when his very last deployment, in Georgia. So number 6. He was gone for 2 weeks, and then I found out. I found out I was pregnant, and then let's see, at the 10 weeks, I went to go get an ultrasound, and I had a miscarriage, but so that was rough doing that without him. Yeah,
I remember feeling like, when you told me, I remember feeling like I want to fly out to be with you. Like, it was so hard to like be on, and we weren't even on the other side of the world from each other, just on the other side of the United States. But that was like so hard, so sad.
So that was a hard one too. I kind of forgot. So number 6 and number 7 were hard.
The 2 hardest ones.
Yeah.
Now, is there any advice you would give to somebody in terms of like reacquainting and coming back and getting a rhythm? Like,
just have grace for that person. Like, you don't know what they've been through. They could be carrying a lot of baggage with them, and so just pray for them, obviously, and just try not to fight over the little.
That's good.
The little things. It's not worth it. Let it go.
That is good advice for any marriage.
Yeah. I still need it.
Listen, we've both been married for 18 years. We're telling you all about it.
Don't worry about the little things.
That's really good. And then is there any other things you would say about like while being on deployment? Like, is there anything advice you could give if like there's somebody out there who's their husband is getting ready to go on deployment, maybe it's their first one, that like any words of encouragement or wisdom you could give them for kind of both of those processes, the deployment and the coming back?
I would say definitely prayer. Like, you got the first thing's prayer. And just if you have a relationship with God, like, you just need to depend on Him to help you get through it. Like, because He's the only one that can bring you through these hard times. And also, just if you have a good group of friends, just hang out with them as much as you can, keep busy, and I don't know, just obviously communicate with your spouse a lot. Phone calls, letters, anything you can to keep the communication going. Like, you want to know what they're going through, what you're going through,
and I'd have to say too, Lisa's been super supportive of Matt throughout his whole career, and I think that's really important too. Like, I think that you've been really like, just supportive of what he's doing and just kind of on board, and I think sometimes like the selfishness thing can get in the way if you're not, even if you're not going through deployments and a military life. I think, that like support and kind of like putting the other person first. And, like, I feel like I've really seen you display that over the years. So that's been very inspiring to me.
Thank you.
Now, there were, and we're not going to like divulge any like state secrets or anything, but there were, if I remember correctly, there were times you weren't really allowed to know where he was.
Yeah.
Was that most of the time? Or did you, you kind of knew maybe what country he was in, but not like exact locations.
Yeah. Yeah, some things I couldn't know. So, or he scared me one time and was like, remember this phone call? Like,
oh my God.
He's like, I can't go into detail what happened today, but just like remember.
Oh my God.
I was like, what do you want me to do with this information? Like, he's like, I'm not going to tell you what happened until I get back.
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay. Because he didn't want me to worry. And he's like, don't worry, read any newspaper. Or,
don't read any newspaper.
Don't pay attention to the news. Like, I'll tell you when I get back. I'm like, okay.
How long was it until he got back after that call?
It was still several months. Like, it wasn't like, I'll be back in a week. Like,
he's also, so her husband is also kind of like a practical joker kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like, he likes to like do a little like, but also I think that playfulness is like helps out in your marriage too. One time they were, when I think it was when you were in England, the flower.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can look that up on YouTube. It's the Snow Angel Challenge. Yeah. And he thought it was funny to throw baking flour, all over the floor.
All over their kitchen. Like,
kitchen floor.
Enough that it looked like it had snowed in their kitchen.
Yeah. And him and my littlest one, she was 2 at the time, I think. They were making snow angels when I came home. And I was like, wow, you guys.
And he's videoing any videos coming home.
And we had to go somewhere, and I was very upset. We had to go to a ballet show. And then Emma gets on the floor and does Snow Angels. Yeah, you can look that up on YouTube.
Yeah, look that one. Oh, I'll link it in the show notes.
Oh, there you go.
You can go watch it and you can see.
See how mad I was.
But was that hard to not know, or like those kinds of things? So after he says like, don't watch the news, was there anything you did to not let your mind go to like worry or that sort of a thing?
Yeah,
I know we talked already about like prayer and that sort of thing, but
yeah,
did you often have the moments where you had to kind of combat the temptation to worry?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a hard one. I had to check myself a lot because, or I would even have dreams sometimes of something bad happening to him. And it was just like, I always just had to be like, bring it back to God and just let him have it, because it can, if you sit there and dwell on it, it's worse. Like,
it's like takes you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
That scripture, Philippians 4:8, whatever, I think it's 4:8. I think. Pretty sure. I kind of know. I mean, I know my Bible pretty good, but like, anyway. But anytime I'm like spout it, I'm like, maybe someone's gonna be like, that's the wrong verse. But whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are praiseworthy, whatever things are good report, think on those things. And I always, for me, so I'm a worrier. Like, Kev goes to the hardware store, and if he doesn't answer his phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's dead. And so, but honestly, I have to say, because like you've always kind of like kept me in check, because it's like the Lord's like, Caroline, come on. He's like, Lisa's trusted me for like years of her life over here with her husband, and you're like 5 minutes and you're like, oh my gosh. Like, little perspective, a little perspective.
Oh, we're all different.
We are all different. But look at that, like, graceful. This is why she's been one of my best friends since we were 4. Is there any other, is there any scripture or anything in specific that you, like, held on to that you can share, like, it for deployment and for someone going into that?
Yeah, I know this is a common verse, but it's helped me. So Philippians 4-13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I've liked that verse since I was a teenager, but at each stage in my life, I've had to, like, I can do these things. Yeah. I can go through these deployments, even though they're hard. I can move away from my family. Like, he will help you get through it. Even though it seems impossible at the time, all things are possible. So,
and I think it's so cool to see how God's blessed your marriage and your family because you've been obedient to him. And I would just encourage anyone listening to just take that and remember that, because I think sometimes we can get in our heads about, like, I don't know, maybe how we, like, pictured something, you know, like if your husband goes, oh my gosh, I got this great job in some other place, but no, I'll never move from here, you know, having those kinds of attitudes. And it doesn't mean God can't still work with you if you, like, say, nope, we're not doing it, and you don't go. But I do think that God blesses you extra for being obedient and for being willing to go wherever he asks you to go.
Yeah. And
he doesn't call everybody to, you know, to be military life or to travel a lot or to live in different places. But I do think that it's important to be open to what he's calling you to do. And I think one thing that you guys have done really well is, and like you were saying that in Cheyenne, it kind of helped you to do this because you moved away from your family, you know, right away. You were able to kind of cleave to Matt, you know, the leave and cleave. And, but I would just encourage people to pursue that in your marriage. I mean, you know, you can still love your family and enjoy them, but there's something really sweet when you really make your family unit the important thing in your life, and you just keep that in check. And I think God really blesses that, because I think that's really how he designed for it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is there any other, kind of closing up, is there any other wisdom or advice that, before we move into the rapid fire questions, that you would be able to give, or that came to your head that you haven't said already?
You gotta have that
dependency on God.
Yeah, definitely.
Pray.
Yeah, you know.
Pray. Grace for your spouse when they come home. When they leave, all of that, and just pursue cultivation of your marriage even when they're gone. Like, I think and that would be, like, probably a good, I know you said you didn't really talk about doing that, but that seems like that would be a good conversation to have with your spouse before they deployed, like saying, like, hey, let's talk as much as we possibly can. Yeah. Like, I'd like to talk every day, because I think, like, you know, it's awesome that you guys did it, but, like, there might be couples who kind of grow apart because they didn't really have that discussion. Yeah. So that might be a really good, like, communication point to have to, you know,
make it a priority.
Yeah. And, you know, and they did it. So, you know, not to say that every single soldier is going to have exactly the same amount of time or whatever, but they can. So that's awesome. I love it. This has been, like, such a good conversation. I love it. I love your heart, friend, and I love hearing it. Even though, like, I've seen and I've watched you, I love, like, hearing you talk deeper about it and talk about what you went through and how God sustains you.
And I just want to say something real quick. Caroline has been such a blessing to me through all my moves. Like, she's been able to visit me at almost all of them, and her and Kevin, and you guys have been a true blessing to me. Like, she would call me all the time, and even though we weren't always together, like, she called me, she checked up on me. That's another, like, you need a friend to have, like, that will call and check up on you and make sure you're doing okay. So
I was always,
you have been a true blessing to me. So.
Thank you, friend. And that was like, you know, that I was always like, you know, I was always worried about you. It was hard. I think like one of the hard ones was when like the time difference ones, because you're trying to like call at a time that you could. I remember there was one time I think I called you. I think I was in another country. I feel like I can't remember where it was. I can't remember. It wasn't when I came to visit, but I feel like I was like in, I don't know, Venice or something. I was doing a show, and I feel like I like called you one day, and I was like, "Well, I'm on your time schedule, and like I'm just gonna call. I had a minute." Thank you. That is so kind. I've loved our friendship. Our friendship has been such a seriously sweet blessing. It's I feel like very rare to meet someone, I don't know, first day of preschool and be like, hey buddy, I got you. Lifelong friends. Here we go. And we were both, so Lisa was in my wedding, I was in Lisa's wedding, and we've just like always been part of each other's lives. So it's like so awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. What is your favorite vacation place or place that you've been, and why?
Oh, that was a hard one because we've been to a lot of places.
They've been to a lot of places.
And they've all been fabulous, honestly.
Well, and when they lived in Europe, they could like day trip to like, oh, we went to France for the day. You know?
Let's go to Germany.
Do you want to go to Germany?
The Netherlands.
Yeah. I was so jealous. I'd be like.
Yeah. Oh, it's been hard. But I have to say, Hawaii has been maybe because I was born there, and I told you. See, I don't remember it
in your soul.
Yeah, it's in me. So I was finally able a couple years ago. I was finally able to like go there.
It was like an anniversary trip, right?
Yeah, it was our anniversary, 15, I think. Yeah, 15 years. I was able to go there because I'd never gone since I'd been born, and I just felt this connection to Hawaii. We went back again a year later, and we took our girls with us this time so they could see it. And I just have a calling for
what
Hawaii.
Island did you? I love it.
I know. It's just.
I like the idea of having a calling for Hawaii. I think it's like awesome.
I need to go.
Yeah, like God, if you want to, put them there, transfer them there.
Yeah, they have bases out there. If you want to station us there.
I will totally go, Lord. What island did you go to?
We only went to Oahu both
I've
of the times.
never been to Oahu.
Really?
I've been to Kona and to Kauai.
Oh, okay.
So I've never been to Oahu.
Oh, it is more touristy, I heard. But it's beautiful.
I like being a tourist.
Yeah.
I don't have any negative things to say about touristing.
Me either, because that's what I am. I'm a tourist.
I love it. Yeah, me too. I feel the same way. That's awesome. I love it. Do you have a favorite scripture or life verse, and why?
Well, it was Philippians 4:13.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
And it's been, every time I go through a hard time, that he pops that verse in my head and just reminds me, you can do it.
That's awesome. When do you think when did you feel like that was, like, I know we talked about that you had it since you were younger, but do you remember when you got it, or like when God showed it to you or gave it to you?
It was at like a youth group. Maybe it was a college group. Yeah. Okay, so I was a little bit older. I was in the college youth group, and I think I just remember, like, I don't know if someone shared the verse or just it was just like bam, like, because I think Matt might have been, I don't know if he was at boot camp yet, or I don't know, there were just some things going on in my life that God was just like, you can do this, like, so I just have held on to that verse ever since then. And just my verse.
I love it. That's awesome. And that's true, like scripture, like, you know, he can bring it to mind. And I feel like even if you don't think you like memorize something, I feel like he can even just like reading it as much as you can. I feel like I love it when he does that. Okay, what is your favorite TV show or movie?
Oh, that's hard. Let's see. Well, I love The Mandalorian.
Mandalorian is
I
so
just
good.
love it, and I can't wait till they come out.
So good.
They better be working on it right now.
We need a little baby Yoda Grogu in our
I need
life.
some Grogu.
He's so cute. Like
I can't
when he
stand
reaches
it.
in his little hands, when he does the force,
Yeah.
it's like so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's been my favorite.
Were you a Star Wars fan before that?
No.
Because I was going to say, I feel like growing up, we never like talked about Star Wars ever.
And I've watched it. I tried to get into it, but it's not, I can't get into the other Star Wars. Like, I just like The Mandalorian. Like,
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. And what about in movie?
Ooh. Let's see. I love the Harry Potters. I
Potters
can always
are
watch
so
those
good.
again. We watched them again during quarantine.
They're
like
so
all
good.
Of them. Yeah, and I don't get tired of them, so.
I loved that when they lived in England, the little, like you would see kids like with they would look like they were like going to Hogwarts.
Yeah,
you
their
know,
little uniforms.
Yeah. And her oldest got like a little bit, well, actually they both kind of sometimes would say words with accents. And it was like the cutest thing in the world when they did it. I was like, they're going to lose it. It's going to be so sad.
It's gone.
It is. It's totally gone. I was thinking that today when I came in. All right. Well, is there anything that you want to share, like resources, a book you recommend, a nail polish you like? I don't know. Random something. Something you're like loving right now. Something you're like using or something that's like helpful. It doesn't have to be like spiritual or anything. It could be like, I don't know.
Oh, well, I love reading. I have a lot of different books I read. But they're all like Christian authors. There's so many. Lynn Austin is an awesome Christian author.
She fiction or?
Yeah, fiction.
Okay.
And that's another thing, like if I'm ever alone or I need something to do, grab a book. Love my books.
I love books too.
Yeah, she's great.
That's awesome. Lynn Austin. Put that in the show notes. Would you want to share your Instagram that I could link on and then if anybody had any questions about deployment or if there was any women who wanted to ask you for advice or prayer or anything?
Yeah, I'd love to share advice and pray for others.
All right. So I will link her Instagram so that you could message her if you have any questions about deployment or if you just need to reach out to somebody who has experience with that. She's a prayer warrior and a good friend. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Still kind of brand new at this.
No, you're doing
interview
great.
number 5. Thanks.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you. It's like feels good to have your like best friend that you've had forever next to you while you're doing it. So, all right. Well, thank you. Okay, all you housewives, that's it for today. I'm truly grateful you joined us. If you know anyone who would be encouraged by this episode, you can easily share it by taking a screenshot and adding it to your stories or feed. You can also text it to a friend. New episodes are uploaded every other Friday. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch them all. You can find and interact with me on Facebook and Instagram at Married Rogers Neighborhood, as well as my website, which I linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed our conversation today, it helps so much if you could take a second to rate and give a 5-star review. It really makes a huge difference for me and the podcast. Just remember, we are in this together. God loves you, and you are not alone. See you next time.